Hello, welcome, and thank you for plugging in with us on the 10th episode of Plugged in Laporte. I'm your host, Nate Loucks, coming to you this August 2024 with our second episode of the month. We genuinely appreciate your support. Whether you've been with us through this entire journey or you're just tuning in to a new episode, we aim to dig deep into the heart of LaPorte, Indiana, exploring stories of growth, resilience, and community vibrancy. If you enjoy our dive into everything LaPorte, we'd be honored if you could rate, review, and share this podcast with your friends and family. Your support helps us grow and keeps the stories of our beloved city circulating. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by the LaPorte Economic Advancement Partnership, which is committed to serving businesses throughout the greater LaPorte area and is dedicated to stimulating our local economy. Discover the vast array of services they offer at laportepartnership.com. LEAP plays a crucial role in our community, and we thank them for their support. In today's conversation, I'm thrilled to sit down with Scott Hamilton, the COO at New York Blower. Scott is a key figure in the industry with an impressive tenure that followed his college graduation a few decades ago to his transition into executive leadership today. Scott will share insights into the company's growth, the evolving trends in the fan industry, and the decision behind their recent $10 million investment to upgrade their facilities here in LaPorte and enhance the neighboring area. It's a testament to their commitment not just to innovation, but also to community and environmental beauty. I loved talking with Scott, and I think you'll love that conversation too. Additionally, we'll get our monthly update with Brett Binversie, LaPorte's City Events and Civic Director. Brett keeps us in the loop from the buzz around upcoming concerts to the highly anticipated Sunflower Fair this fall. And for a little twist, we'll test Brett's knowledge of Pink's most popular songs. It promises to be both informative and entertaining. This episode is all about what makes our city unique: groundbreaking industrial advancements, the simple joys of community events, and a shared love for music and art and the people that you live next to. Here in LaPorte, we're all about getting curious, connected, and plugged in. So without further ado, let's dive into our conversations with Scott Hamilton and Brett Binversie. Today, we have the honor of welcoming Scott Hamilton, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at New York Blower. New York Blower has a rich history in LaPorte, having been founded in 1889. It was originally based in Chicago, but in 1919 it established strong roots in LaPorte. For over a century, New York Blower has been a key player in our local economy and an example of both manufacturing excellence and community involvement. New York Blower recently announced plans for a major development in LaPorte. The project includes the construction of a new office complex and greenspace. This ambitious initiative demonstrates their commitment to the city and promises to retain 205 jobs while also creating future employment opportunities and improving LaPorte's landscape in multiple ways. It's a win-win-win objective. We'll talk about that and more on today's podcast. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Good to see you. Good to see you, Nate. But yeah, it's a project that we're very proud of. It's been a long time coming, frankly, for us. It's I've been with the company 30 years, and as you mentioned, we've been in LaPorte for 105 of that, and the company as a whole is a 135-year-old company. So while things have changed and improvements have been made, throughout my career in 30 years, certainly the appearance of our buildings and our office space, we kind of made do with what we had as we grew and got into some additional things. We kind of just found existing space for people to work. So we kind of got disjointed with our, internally, departmentally, people that need to work together, being close proximity. We kind of got branched out, and we needed some improvements to the space. So what kind of started as a refurbish both sides of the street, Plant 1 and Plant 3, in that office space, again, dealing with 100-year-old buildings, and our most recent addition was 1996. So 30 years later, 28 years later, it's overdue. But once we got into that process, it just made sense to, you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, and never knowing what you're going to run into with these older buildings. It only made sense to do it in the form of an addition.
So tell me a little bit, as you say, New York Blower has been here for a long time, longer than any of us combined, really. What is the history of New York Blower? A lot of people in LaPorte know of New York Blower. A lot
Sure.
of people know people that worked at New York Blower, but they might not even know what you produce and
Sure.
create.
No, that's a good point. I'll quickly share my own personal experience. New York Blower was a name that I heard, I knew as a lifelong, grew up in LaPorte, but they're just far enough off Lincoln Way and the main drag that really didn't know a whole lot about them. There just wasn't a real presence. If you didn't know anybody that worked there, you really didn't know. And honestly, when I finished school in '94, I kind of did a mass mailing of resumes and cover letters locally, LaPorte, South Bend, Valpo, and landed an interview with New York Blower that until then I had no idea what they did, frankly. So that's my own experience. But what we do is we're a manufacturer, supplier of industrial fans and equipment, air moving, process handling. And most of it's not your ceiling fans, it's not your box fans that you can buy at the big box stores. These are instrumental in typically manufacturing processes, curing ovens for paint booths, dust collection for woodworking, and fume exhausting for scrubbers for chemical plants, and handling byproducts, air conveying for recycle plants. And then we're on the high end, the heavy processing stuff. We're in concrete plants and boiler manufacturers, steel mills. Pretty much anywhere you see a stack on a building when you're driving down the road, there's probably a fan at the bottom of it, and it's very likely that it came from New York Blower.
So you guys have been a company for many, many years.
Yes.
What do you, as now one of the head leaders of this company, and been there for, you said 30 plus years?
30 years, yeah.
What do you attribute to the longevity and success of New York Blower making it? Because there's been a lot of companies of that length that have not made it.
Yeah. No, that's a very good question. Certainly, one, it helps that we build a product that is still needed. So many things come and go, or you're designed, or technology gets you away from that. There's only so many ways to move air. So we're fortunate in that regard, but certainly I'm proud of my career and the steps I've taken in that. But there's a little bit of pressure to keep those wheels turning, keep the business growing, doing that from LaPorte, and we have some facilities elsewhere as well. But there is some pressure to continue all the good things that have happened in the first 135 years, to be a small point in time where I have some input and some control and some decisions to make that set the course for the next 100 years for the company.
So we've got the why it's so long-lasting now. I want to know a little bit about, you say that you've got other locations. I think your corporate location was in Chicagoland for a little while, or still is?
Well, we have our sales headquarters is in Willowbrook, Illinois.
So there are opportunities to move the company if you wanted to, but you chose to invest, I think I read in the newspaper, maybe $5 million in this new construction project.
Yes, roughly.
What was it about LaPorte that made you want to continue investing into this community?
Well, while we have other facilities, one, LaPorte's a great community, and again, I grew up here. Most of our employee base is from the LaPorte area. We take some stock in local talent. We love to return graduates. We do have a pretty substantial engineering group that it's a handful of LaPorteans and local communities that get their education at Purdue and want to come back to LaPorte. So we're proud of that. But it's also the LaPorte. Our operations in LaPorte is still the kind of the nerve center of New York Blower. A lot of things we do centrally from LaPorte with our engineering group, all of our procurement and negotiating contracts for commodities, that's all done from LaPorte. The satellite facilities are, a couple of those are actually fan companies that we've acquired over time, a little bit of expansion, but those are purely manufacturing facilities elsewhere.
I want to talk a little bit because I'm fascinated by you mentioned you guys create a product that still people need to buy, right?
Yes.
And like you said, you're not going to Menards to buy one of your fans.
Correct.
But I do believe you can see some of your fans because did you guys produce, or maybe the type of fan you can produce is in larger Civic auditorium type of spaces, right? Those
Sure.
large 15-foot.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Nate. And we have been fortunate locally. We did supply. I think we put 8 fans in the Civic when we did the renovation. And ironically, those kind of replaced 4 large units.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1929, I think those fans were built and put in the Civic. They were there originally. But while fans are still required, the technology is a little bit different, and we've been able to adapt to that. But for instance, in the Civic project, there were 4 54-inch diameter wheel units in there, spinning at very, very low RPM. But moving a lot of air. Those were replaced with 8 18-inch fans, 18-inch diameter wheels. So as products have evolved, designs have evolved, doing more with less, so to speak, being able to accomplish what was done in 1929 with some very large-scale fans and blowers, being able to do that with 8 smaller units. One, it's a cost thing. But we've been able to adapt to all those needs to the market, and we're pretty devoted to our product development and coming up with new products. Currently, we have about 52 product lines, and pre-pandemic, we were on a pace. We were trying to introduce 2 new products a year. So every 6 months, we're doing some tweaks, filling some gaps in our selections, making more available to our customers, current and existing customers, but also kind of looking ahead. What's the next need? Where do we fill a gap?
That's what I wanted to talk a little bit about is every industry has to change. It does, right? I mean, in 30 years you've been involved, I'm sure you've seen significant changes. Where do you see the blower industry and the industry that you're in? How do you see it kind of evolving and changing in the next 10 to 15, 20 years?
Yeah, it's there's only so much you can do. A lot of the product we build, while you tweak some things based on capabilities to manufacture, you can work with the geometry, but there's only so much you can do. A lot of the things we build today were designed in the 60s, 70s, but it's kind of funny how there's booms in some things. That we know it's a flash in the pan. They kind of fade away after 5-10 years, but there always seems to be something emerging that requires the same technology or similar equipment. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Here 10, 15 years ago, ethanol was a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we served that industry. And had a chunk of that, and they became our largest customer for a couple years. That boom has kind of went behind. Well, now you've got the electric batteries, the EV plants, battery plants, clean rooms for microchips. We're involved in all those things. Pharmaceuticals and air cleaning and filter cleaning mechanisms became a big thing through the pandemic. There's opportunities for us in those markets as well. So as one fades away, something else seems to be
I didn't even
emerging.
think of that, Scott, but it's a good point, right? One of the big announcements here recently is the Microsoft, data center. But data centers all have to be cooled, right? And if anything has to be cooled or heated, it needs a fan, right?
Yeah.
And so as the industry changes, I guess the secret is just staying on top of it, right?
Yeah, and it's important to, one, market your product and make sure that when those opportunities arise that you're there, you're front and center. You got, and we're fortunate to have an incredible sales force that meets those needs. They're, ear to the ground, looking for these projects, these refurbishments. The prison in Westville is another good example that. We're in the spec on that. We're providing some fans for the Westville prison renovation and expansion as well. So, but yeah, it's we're out there, and like I said, the sales force is incredible, and a lot of these projects, it's not someone's not just deciding to buy a fan today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are projects that are months and months in coming together in quoting stages and feasibility and funding and capital budgets, obviously. But it's important to get in at ground level and make sure you're part of the equation, and that's what our folks do a great job of.
So is there an element of predictive future for you where the industry's going? Do you have to kind of predict it, or do you just kind of follow the trends and see where it's going?
Yeah, like I said, looking at the state of things today, you know, we're players in gas and oil, and the ethanol thing was a good example. Mining, the coal industry, ventilating mines, all those things, we've been a part of that, and knowing where, you know, the direction that's heading, but knowing that our equipment is still valuable and the needs of the next thing, which is EV and green and data centers and microchip production. You know, we've got a good foothold in a lot of that as well. But that's interesting because we're devoting some resources to that exactly. We are trying to look ahead and see. We know what today looks like. We know a little bit about what tomorrow looks like. But we've got a strategic initiative right now that we'll be 140 years old in 5 years, and we're doing some speculatory design and redesign and new product ideas for what does the fan market look like in 5 years, and you know, it's one of those things when you introduce a new product, you know, the first one usually reaps the benefits of that. And there are many cases where you see a market and you're a little bit late to the game, and you show up with your Me Too product,
Yep.
But you're behind the curve
Yep.
from a market share standpoint. So trying to beat everybody to the punch and come up with some new ideas and what will be the need 5 years from now, and how do we develop it? How do we develop those things and those tools now, so that we're kind of first to the game.
Now, you're a leader. I've looked at it from afar and really appreciated and really admired a lot of what you and the team over at New York Blower has done. I'll give a shout out to my friend Mark Bublitz, who's a team player over there as well. But, you know, you've been with this company for 30 years. You're born and raised in LaPorte. You started young and green, I'm sure, right? Let's talk a little bit about leadership. What do you wish you would have known 30 years ago that the 30 years of experience has taught you that you think would have made it a little easier if you would have known it 30 years ago?
Wow, that's a tough one, Nate. It's when you've done it for 30 years and you've kind of you know, taken a few steps on that ladder. It's hard to look back, but certainly in my situation, it was knowing and understanding the most, as much as I could about the company, historically, departmentally, just trying to grasp the whole picture, right? So many people get stuck, I think, in doing a job that just becomes the job and the career. But I worked hard to be a part of and take, you know, within the company, taking chances on opportunities that came about, because we do a lot of that. We do a lot of promotion from within. So I made myself well-rounded because I understood the business from front to back, order to cash, so to speak, is the term we use. But you know, certainly the more you know, the more valuable you are in any organization. But it's when you've lived it, it's tough to look back and say what's the one or two things that I wish I knew. I don't know. Myself personally, it's and I'm proud to say, and it's pretty unheard of these days. But you know, realistically, it's the only job I ever had. So, but that's a personal thing. That's how my dad was. It's you commit yourself to your job. You commit yourself to doing a good job. You go to work every day, and good things happen. And that's certainly what happened in my case. But there was never a point in my career that I was looking to go somewhere else. I wasn't chasing $1 an hour or a better location. That seems to be the new thing. You kind of pick your spot and then find a job, rather than picking a job and making it work. And that's kind of what I did.
Have you seen that converse, like you said, played out at New York Blower a little bit, where it can be a little more difficult, and I say that because quality of life indicators, about quality of life, right? Creating the community that people want to live in. People sometimes don't always understand how that can impact employment, right?
Sure.
It very much can today, correct?
Yeah, it certainly does. And honestly, again, we're fortunate, and I think it says a lot about our employees, but more importantly about the company. But we have a annual, what we call our 25-year club. So anyone that has retirees or active that had at least 25 years of service to New York Blower, we have that annually. And I think we're inviting 180 people this year.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
And of that, 95 or 96 of those are still active. So it's, like I said, it says a lot about the company. It says a lot about the employees we hire, but they're in it for the long haul. And, we provide, steady, dependable employment opportunities. And historically, people tend to stick with what we offer and where we're located and what the job is. Now, that did get a little sideways, obviously, with the pandemic and the wage inflation. There were opportunities for a lot of people to name your price if you had some skills and talent. And we saw a little bit of that, but in large part, our bigger obstacle was getting enough people. We didn't see too many walk away from New York Blower during that time.
So I hear, would you say 96 people that are currently employed that are at 25 years?
Yeah.
When I hear that, that means in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to have some nice opportunities for the company to get some younger talent and younger people. So if there's younger people listening right now, how would you encourage somebody to get ready for being an adult in the work life, right? What kind of people are you looking to hire at New York Blower?
Yeah, well, as a manufacturer, obviously the backbone of what we do is welding, machining, a lot of sheet metal equipment, press brakes, and laser equipment, CNC equipment, and those are skills that. And again, when you have people stick, we haven't been on a big hiring wave to look for 10 or 12 or 15 people. It's kind of, you replace a retiree or someone found something better at some point, and you could be pretty selective. But we certainly opened a can through the pandemic when you're in that mode to try to hire 10 or 15 welders or half dozen machinists. The technical gap, education-wise, training-wise, whatever, became super visible, and those are skills that are still needed, not just at New York Blower, but in a lot of areas, and locally here in the community, we've thrown some things at that.
You're not the only ones looking for welders,
exactly, right? And so certainly there's that aspect, that hands-on. Like I said, welding, machining, running a piece of equipment, material handling, forklift operators, all those things. But then there's kind of the other, the engineering, purchasing, procurement, marketing, sales. Anybody that's going to school. Finishing high school, looking to work, there's opportunities at New York Blower. If you're going to school to be an engineer or a marketing degree or something along those lines, there's opportunities at New York Blower. Anybody and everything, we kind of touch it. Outside of the medical field, we're not into that yet. But as I mentioned, as the community of LaPorte, coming out of or in the middle of and coming out of the pandemic. There's been a lot of good things happening in LaPorte regarding some of these labor gaps, and certainly New York Blower has done their part. I think we've worked with the schools, LaPorte High School. We've worked with Ivy Tech to implement and provide some of that training locally within our plants, and look to do more of that in the future as well.
It is pretty amazing that if you're in high school right now and or you're thinking maybe that a 4-year degree isn't part of your path, you can get trained in welding before you even graduate, correct?
Sure. Yes.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's welding, just as an example, is one, it's a skill and it's transferable. And you never lose. It's like riding a bike, right? If you learn that trade and that skill, whether you stay in LaPorte and work for New York Blower or Howmet or anybody else, but that's a skill you can take with you to any part of the world. If there's anything manufacturing going on, there's
usually
a job
welds
for you.
on it, right?
Exactly. So, but the public education, we kind of drifted away. Everybody's on a path to go to college, and we drifted away from the auto body and electricity and welding and some of the things that I enjoyed as a student a long time ago. A lot of those things went away, and the direction was different. But I think the pandemic certainly let everybody know that there's still a huge need for some of these things, and I see it start to creep back in the public education. A bit of a career center here in LaPorte to not only offer welding but promote it and give everybody an opportunity that's interested.
For sure. I just have one more question then. So you guys have decided to build a green space as well, right? You're the space, or at least you're investing into the aesthetic of the grassy area that you will have remaining, which is in an area, to be frank, it's not the most beautiful area where you guys are. That neighborhood has not had the investment that some of the other neighbors, which means you are choosing to invest into the look of this. You're choosing to invest into the community for the community's sake as well. How important do you think it is for companies like New York Blower and other companies that have the ability to invest into their community like that?
Yeah, I think it's super important, and certainly, in our case, again, we're in some older buildings. The original plant that we moved into in 1919 is still there. With I think we've had 7 or 8 additions to that building, and then we built Plant 3 and Plant 4 in the early 90s, late 80s, and mid 90s. And then we had Plant 2, which was on the corner there where the green space will be. That was another very old building. It was beyond its useful life, and certainly we approached it with how do we save it, but frankly there was no saving it. So moving some things around and finding some spots to get everything situated within the 3 plants. Then it became, what do we do with it? And we're a manufacturing company. I don't think anybody, past or present, saw that we needed to look any different. But certainly the age of the buildings was showing. The area, Factory Street in general, is kind of all in the same boat. But that intersection in particular, being close enough to Lincoln Way, and the traffic with the Thomas Rose Industrial Park coming along, it only made sense to beautify that. And with all the things the mayor's doing and cleaning up LaPorte and making it pleasing to the eye, certainly we're on board with that. And it's not just from a community standpoint. I think it's great, but we do entertain customers and clients and vendors. And I think it goes a long way with them that you are investing locally and in your community. If you're going to be one of the best fan suppliers in the world, you got to look the part too.
For sure. Well, Scott, it's been a pleasure having you on the Plugged In LaPorte podcast. Your insights into New York Blower's enduring legacy, its current initiatives, and future prospects are incredibly inspiring. I loved this conversation. Thanks so much for sharing your time and stories with us and
Absolutely.
Our listeners.
Yep. Thanks, Nate.
All right, welcome back to the Plugged In LaPorte podcast, your go-to podcast for all things that impact our community. From economic developments to the vibrant events that bring us all together. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by Brett Binversie, the director of the LaPorte Civic Auditorium and Civic Events. His dedication is what keeps our social and cultural calendar exciting and diverse. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show to talk about the events and concerts happening in the Civic Auditorium and around downtown LaPorte. We have heard there's a lot in store for the future, so can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek, Brett? How are you doing?
We're doing well. Lots going on, and always, we're already planning into spring and summer of 2025, so it just never stops. It's an endless cycle, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah, and we've got these events that are coming up, and I saw, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there a Pink tribute band coming up?
Yes, it is one of the more amazing experiences I think we're going to have there. It's called the Pink Experience, and they do the entire full show. Like, they do the gymnastics, the rope, the climbing, all those things. And her show is dead on, not just from a musical and replications point of the Pink performer, but she does all of the other things that come with it. The persona on the stage, the energy, the acrobats, everything. You're going to get the full Pink experience at the show. And, a lot of people don't realize, but Pink has like 31 million followers on Instagram and Facebook. Her concerts are outstanding, and her catalog is huge.
Yeah, do you know many of her songs?
Not by name, but by sound. I mean, I know a lot of the more hip ones, like, Raise Your Glass and stuff like that. But I mean, her catalog expands, 20 plus years now, roughly?
So that's a good segue, because I actually created a game for you. This is a big deal to get a Pink tribute band here.
I'd like to think so, yes.
Yeah, I genuinely think. I went on YouTube. This tribute band is incredible.
It really is.
And, there's nothing for me for the tribute bands you brought in that's better than the Pearl Jam tribute band. I just love them. And I know I'm on an island there, because you've brought in a ton, and everyone doesn't seem to love the Pearl Jam tribute band as much as I do, but objectively the best thing you've ever brought in. But this might compete, right? So I've got a game here. This is Guess the Pink song from the lyric. Okay?
I should be able to do that.
Okay. Just a couple questions for you. So I will give you the song lyric, and then you guess which song it is. I'll even give you the 4 options, okay? First one. This is the lyric. Have you ever hated yourself for staring at the phone? Do you know this lyric?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Have you ever hated yourself for staring at the phone? It's either from A, try, B, so what, C, just give me a reason, or D, who knew. You can phone a friend. By phone a friend, that means talking to producer Lindsay.
I say, Lindsay, what is your choice?
Do you know?
I'm going to say try.
Is that your final answer? Is that your final answer?
That it is.
All right, no, it's who knew. You're 0 for 1. All right, here we go.
Lindsay's 0 for 1, for the record.
Here's another one. Pretty please. Don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect. That is effing perfect is the song name. Raise Your Glass, Try, or Sober. What song do you think it is?
Sober.
I will repeat the lyric again and then go with the song name. Pretty please, don't ever feel like you're less than perfect is the song name. Effing perfect.
I'll go with option 1, Nate.
Yes, correct. All right. Here's another one. No matter how hard I try, you keep pushing me aside and I can't break through. Is that Who Knew? Just Like a Fire? Just Give Me a Reason? Or Just Like a Pill?
Just Give Me a Reason.
No, it is a Cher song called Believe that you're totally wrong
See,
on
that
that
is
one.
cheap. It's one of these 4 options, but it's not.
All right, thanks for playing
That
this
sounds
game.
like something the mayor would do.
Yeah, thanks for playing this game. So we've got maybe you need to bring a Cher tribute band in here now, but
maybe.
So talk to me a little bit about what's going on in the Civic coming up in the next month or 2.
Well, we're just coming off of a great Maroon 5 show on August 16th. And outstanding performance. If anybody caught some of their videos online, you should have should be there or should have been there.
You missed out.
You absolutely missed out. And, I will rewind for a second, and I will rival you with the Pearl Jam. I know you weren't able to make it, but the Metallica tribute we had come through was outstanding. That was in June.
Did they sound like Metallica?
They sounded exactly like Metallica. They were pretty amazing. However, I will say September 6th, as we know, the Pink Experience is coming. We just announced about a week and a half ago the Taylor Swift tribute we're bringing in on October 25th. It's called Lover, a tribute to Taylor Swift, and it replicates the Eras tour, and we're very excited about that. Outstanding job by this group, and I know I use that word a lot. I was watching some clips, and when they played a USO tour in Japan about 6 months ago, and they're just outstanding. They're coming in with some support dancers and everything. It's going to be like a 2.5-hour show.
The lead singer looks like Taylor Swift.
She really does.
Yeah.
It is going to be a very big show for us, we feel. The weekend before that, on October 19th, we have that Arena Rock show coming through, which you're going to know 95% of the songs. That's a sing-along, dance-along, get crazy night for everybody. Those are the things that really, I think, make the Civic so attractive, because it's a short drive, the price is right, you're getting amazing entertainment for $20 or $25, unless you get a reserved table, and then, you get a few of the benefits of being on the floor, closer to the restrooms, closer to the exits, all those type of things. But to be honest with you, there's not a bad seat in the house. For $20 for almost all of our shows, you can get a seat that would cost you at a bigger venue $80 to $100. I was just reading where somebody got tickets to a Pink Experience, and one of our local business owners from Healthy Life, Krista Tashler, and she was saying how she paid $350 for a balcony seat to go to this show. So, it's not Pink, but it's entertaining, and I'm telling you, for the price, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, and it gives you something to do, right? I mean, it's just fun.
And cheap
night with a date, or with friends, or with your children. It's just fun.
One of the things that always, I don't want to say amazes me, but frustrates me at times, is how people are like, "Oh, it's a tribute. How boring." These people are talented musicians, as you know from the 10 show we had for the Pearl Jam tribute. Yeah, you close your eyes, you're listening to a disc, or I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. You're listening to
the old 8-track.
Exactly. Saw a great thing about why Gen Xers are so frustrated going around about how, we had cassettes and then had to replace them with CDs and then had to buy MP3s, and now we have to pay music subscriptions. It's just not quite fair. But, we have that Arena Rock show, and you're going to just love it. It's an arena rock show experience. Once again, prices are right. We have a group called Sabbath opening. It's a Black Sabbath tribute. A little harder than that Arena Rock show, but it's still going to be a great time. October 4th, we're actually bringing in something different. October 4th. It's the day before the Mayor's Ball, and we're bringing in the Ohio Valley Wrestling Association for a wrestling show at the Civic on October 4th.
Is this like WWE?
Yeah, you know what I can tell you is the OVW was the starting point of people like Randy Orton, John Cena, and current Entertainment, so WWE champion Cody Rhodes. So yes, the chops are there. Like this is a legitimate wrestling association. Tickets went on sale for that on I believe Wednesday, August 14th. So we're very excited to be to have that going on. So we're trying to bring in a whole bunch of different genres. And then once we get into November, like what I think is going to be our biggest show of the year, the Rolling Stones tribute, Jumpin' Jack Flash off the West Coast is coming in. Outstanding secondhand soul band's going to be opening for them, and that's going to be a night to remember, we feel. We're not the only promoters doing things at the Civic. We have that big show on October 18th with Scotty McCreery that Hometown Jams is bringing in, and that's a big name. A winner of American Idol, I do believe, and country star.
He was a winner, but I know he was a contestant. I don't know.
I heard he won. I'm not quite.
Did.
Unfortunately, my I have some country music background, but it just extends to like people like Zach Brown Band and the normal people that we know.
I did just check. He did win the 10th season of American Idol in 2011.
Yep. And
Pretty
speaking of the Zach Brown Band, we have a Zach Brown tribute coming in off the East Coast on January 18th.
That'd be fun.
That's going to be a great night. One of the best concerts I've ever seen in person. The covers that the Zach Brown tribute, or not Zach Brown tribute, but the Zach Brown Band does, and I mean everything from Harry Styles to Whitney Houston to what else did we see? Metallica, Eric Clapton, so many members of that band. One of the best encores I've ever seen. When they come back, there's like 9 to 12 people up on that stage that are all so talented. Zach Brown himself said, we're going to let everybody. They did like 3-minute snippets of different songs by every person. And I mean, it ranged from everything, and it just made your skin like get goosebumps almost watching the talent and how they could go from like family tradition to, Whitney Houston to Inner Sandman. I mean, it's just wow. That's in January. We're going to bring Echoes of Pompeii on January 4th, one of the top Pink Floyd tributes in the Midwest. They put on a great show at the Civic every year. We're real excited to have those there as a member of the Civic Concert Series. We had a former promoter that used to bring them in, and now we'll be doing that in January. And then, we have Rumors coming back in March. We have the, what is it called? Artemis Pyle. It's the Robbie Van Zant tribute group to Leonard Skinner, which is one of the top Leonard Skinner tributes in the country. They'll be there in March as well. The Purple Experience is coming back with Marshall Charloff in February. It's February 21st. So, we've got a long line of stuff coming up. There really is. The Christmas Wizards are coming back, which is a great family show in December 20th. Of course, we've got the Holiday at the Pops with the LaPorte County Symphony on December 14th. From other points, like with the mayor, we have the Mayor's Ball on October 4th. We have State of the City on November 21st through LEAP. We have Family Advocates is doing a, costumes and cocktails on Ridge Street at the Civic on October 26th. We have Meals on Wheels Trivia October 12th. We have the Blue Bash, the Boys and Girls Club fundraiser on October 11th. So there's just so many things going on at the Civic.
And I assume our listeners remembered all those dates. But if you didn't, you can go to, what's the website? LaPorteCivicAuditorium.com. I want to talk about one more thing, though, because it's coming up soon on September 21st. Do you know anything, or can you say anything about the 25th Annual Sunflower Fair? I
can tell you we just got our opener for the Night on the Ave, which is on September 20th, the night before, which is in the 700 block of Michigan Avenue, and it's something LEAP started a few years ago. Great idea, great way to get the Sunflower Fair weekend rolling off. We're bringing in Naughty, which is a Northwest Indiana favorite. They're going to be our main band that night from 6 to 10. And then we're going to bring in, I know Middle of the Road is going to play on the 21st, and we're still finalizing that music lineup. But I know already we have over 110 vendors committed to Sunflower Fair. This is the 25th year for Sunflower Fair to be occurring. It's a great event. Last year, I think we brought over 10,000 people to downtown LaPorte. One of my tasks over the next 4 weeks is we really want to try to spread the word on Lincoln Way and get our in State Street and up and down Michigan and Indiana and get our local businesses tied in and make sure they're offering things and doing things to bring in this influx of people to our downtown area so they can gain business from it as well.
My barber, Joe at Wilson's, told me, he helps run a car show.
The car show.
Yeah, and so there's going to be another car show.
Which last year was their best one yet. And I think they had over 130 cars in that car show, and we're looking at a few different things. It's not final yet, but we're almost hoping we can move that down an extra block, and then we're going to be able to put more vendors onto Michigan Ave and get them off the side streets a little bit, which is our hope, and then we can increase maybe some of the food presence throughout.
Nice. That's going to be great. And when is the Sunflower Fair?
September 21st from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Night on the Ave will be the night before on September 20th from 6 to 10.
All right. What else you got? Anything else? It just doesn't seem like you're doing enough.
We don't do a whole lot over there. Kind of hang out, drink some water, take a nap.
It seems like you got a lot going on, and I'm sure by the next time we get an update, there'll be a dozen more things. And from a resident, I'm as somebody that doesn't do much for this other than we get to talk about it here, I know I appreciate you, and I know producer Lindsay does as well, for all that you guys do for the concerts we do get to attend and those that don't. Because here's the thing, as a resident, I don't assume that every concert's going to be interesting to me, but you do a good enough job to make enough concerts interesting to everyone.
Right. And the one thing I'd like to push out there too is, I don't want to say always, but we hear the voices about, hey, let's bring in let's bring in a named band, not a tribute. Bringing in named bands is a large step financially. And we are very conservative with our risk with the groups we bring in, because we don't utilize tax dollars at all. This is all from revenue aspects. And we guard that closely because we don't want to ever have to say, hey, we took a loss on a few and now we can't afford to cover everything that we normally do. And we never want to increase our tax base again. So, we've moved over a lot of salaries, a lot of like the NIPSCO bills, and all of our promotions and costs associated with LaPorte events as well at the Civic and elsewhere. And we want to make sure that we continue to go down that right path. So the best way to get myself or the Civic to recognize like, hey, we can take a swing at larger bands is for more people to come out and support these other ones. Because, if we have a but we would like to see ourselves selling out that balcony for some of these great tribute bands. Not everything I do, I book thinking we're going to sell 1,600 tickets for this. Sometimes you do things because, hey, we can break even and bring more culture and more entertainment to our community. Things like The Little Mermaid, that was a kid-based show. Not a lot of residual revenue with that, but still a great time. Loved seeing the little kids up there. The Christmas Wizards, we don't do that to sell 2,000 tickets. We do that to have a great time. It pays for itself, and it enhances our community.
It gives a good Christmas memory.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Binversie, it's always a joy to have you on the show, and I just enjoy having you here. And again, I appreciate so much of what you do for our community. And give that website again, just in case. I know our listeners have incredibly didactic memories and remembered every date you gave them. But if they need to know the calendar, where can they find it?
Best place to go for all of our information is LaporteCivicAuditorium.com. You can also visit us on Facebook at LaPorte Civic Auditorium.
Thanks so much again, and thanks so much for listening to the Plugged in LaPorte podcast. All right, friends, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Scott Hamilton for joining us and sharing his journey with New York Blower. We're excited about their growth and expansion. Scott's dedication to the company's success and the local community's well-being is inspiring. And a big shout out to my friend Brett Binversie for keeping us updated on the city's happenings and for playing along with our Pink Lyrics quiz. I'm not going to lie, Brett, you didn't do great. Interactions, though, like these remind us of the vibrant, interconnected community we're all a part of here in LaPorte, and we hope you feel that through this podcast. Now remember, our stories, businesses, and local events are the threads that strengthen the fabric of our community. By supporting one another, staying curious, and fostering connections, we can achieve so much together. Your support keeps us going and helps us bring you more of what you love about LaPorte. A quick shout out to our sponsor, LaPorte Economic Advancement Partnership. You can find out more about them at LaPortePartnership.com. And I would be nothing without our podcast producer, Lindsay Johnkind. Way to go on another episode, Lindsay. I'm Nate Loucks, and this has been Plugged in LaPorte. Let's stay curious, stay connected, and keep plugging in LaPorte. We'll see you in the next episode.